Hi, in this video we'll talk about your international marketing plan, which is your assessment for the subject. So basically you first of all need to identify a business that you can write this international marketing plan for. Your workplace would be fantastic in case they are interested in actually exporting their products or services. Alternatively, you could potentially write it for a winery. You don't actually have to get in contact with that winery. You can just write the plan for them, for a winery. Now, when you write your international marketing plan, the first step is to write, of course, the introduction. You always need an introduction. In the introduction, you explain what the purpose of this international marketing plan is and what you plan to cover. And the main things that you plan to cover is a foreign environment analysis. Basically, you'll analyze the environment in the country that you're expanding into. You'll decide on suitable strategies in that marketplace, and you'll design a marketing mix that'll give people what they want in that market. When you're done with your introduction, you can write your market screening section, and that's basically you selecting a suitable market to export to. So there's a lot of options in the world. There's a lot of countries in the world, and you need to pick a good match for the market that you want to export to. You could also talk about the industry in that country and basically explain, for example, about the Chinese wine industry if you're looking at exporting wine. The next section then is the foreign environment analysis. And the economic environment is basically an analysis of the economy in the foreign market where you are planning to expand into. Things you'd normally look at here are factors such as gross domestic product per capita. That can give you an indication about how much money people in that country has to buy products for or services for. You might want to look at exchange rates, in some cases inflation, if inflation is really high. So just look at some key economic factors and see how they are sort of performing for the country that you're expanding into. That will have great implications later for your pricing strategies in that marketplace. You should also talk about political and legal environments. Are there some legal restrictions that will limit what you can and cannot do in that marketplace? So you need to think very carefully about that. So, for example, here in Australia, a lot of businesses rely on a lot of social media marketing to market their products. If you expand into, say, for example, China, you'll find that there are restrictions on a number of social media platforms that you might be using here in Australia, and that would put some limitations on how you would promote your products in that foreign market. So that's sort of what you'll talk about here. Social cultural environments. Again, the culture of a foreign country will influence buying behavior in that country. So make sure you sort of like do a good cultural analysis. Make sure you read the section about the cultural environment and that you do some of the things that are suggested in there. Geographical environments, this section will probably be relatively short, but you can probably imagine that depending on where a foreign country is located, the geographical location of a given country will influence consumption in that country. For example, if you look at Finland, people would buy different types of clothing in Finland to, say, Australia because of the fact that it's a lot colder there. Technological environment, you can look at what sort of technologies do they have that you can use for your, for example, promotion. How well is the internet working in the country that you're expanding into? What's the uptake of smartphones, if that's something that you would like to use for your promotions later? And finally, look at the competitive environment. just look at what are sort of like the main competitors in that industry. It doesn't have to be very much right here, but just overall look at the competitive environment. So if you look, for example, at the Chinese wine industry, just look at what are the main countries that export to China wine. What are some of the main local players? Maybe you could set up a perceptual map that sort of illustrates what the competitive landscape looks like. You then need to move on to the section about marketing objectives and strategy. Basically, you would normally enter the market through what is called exports. You have a number of options here, and you can read more about them in the course. But the normal first way to sort of enter a foreign market is through export. You should also talk about the target segments in the foreign market. For example, you might, under economic environment, have found that the average income in the foreign marketplace that you're looking at is not very high, but that there's a lot of income inequality in this marketplace, and there's actually a lot of people with incomes similar to Australian incomes, and they might be your target segments in that foreign market. So just explain that. Explain where these people are living, and so yeah, explain about geographical and demographic segmentation here. Then finally, you need to write up what your recommended marketing mix should look like. Your job is to give people what they want. So what sort of pricing strategies will give people what they want in that foreign market? And again, look at these factors here. What did you find up here, and how will that influence your pricing strategies? Product strategies. What should the product look like? Do you need to translate the labels? Do you need to do a number of things to the product in order to export it? Promotion strategies. If you found a number of legal restrictions on, for example, social media, what will you do instead? And talk also about distribution strategies. How will you actually get your products to the end users? In case you're not just going for export, but actually planning to set something up in the foreign country, say, or if you're using a combination of export and setting up a sales office, you need to talk about how you plan to manage the international performance and operations in that country as well. And finally, a conclusion. Should your business actually go ahead with this plan? Is it a good idea? It might just be that you have found the best possible way to enter the foreign marketplace with your product, but that all in all, you conclude that it might not actually be a viable option. After all the research you've conducted, you might just have found that the taxes of actually exporting this product into the foreign marketplace, the tariffs that will be added, will make it unaffordable, and for that reason you recommend that this plan should not go ahead. In most cases, of course, you'll find that yes, this looks like a really attractive option, and yes, we should go ahead. And that's what you write in your conclusion. So just bring to conclusion everything that you have found in your analysis, and that's basically what you gotta do for your assignment.